Good morning. Welcome back to the Saturday Six after a week off, and glad to be back here talking some ball. It feels a little bit like pandemic week here in college football. We have 6 games that have been postponed or canceled because of COVID numbers. We also have Nick Saban, who had a positive test this week. May not be able to coach today. Depends on though. I mean, he's also had if he has 2 more negative tests, and he did have a negative test on Thursday, then it will be treated as a false positive, and he'll be able to coach tonight. So certainly something to I think everyone in America, you could say, will be waiting. Everyone that cares about college football, maybe not everyone in America. I don't know what you're doing with your life if you don't care about college football, but everyone will be waiting with bated breath if Nick Saban's Friday and Saturday tests come back negative and he's able to coach tonight. It's definitely a lot, if you will. I mean, even the NFL, which had been with their daily testing, people felt had really been staying on top of their COVID numbers, and had been able to people felt like had been able to pull it off without a bubble. Really ran into trouble this week. It does look like that there is, a third wave emerging as it gets a little colder. People are spending more time inside. Spending a lot more time inside has been problematic, thus far in the virus spread. So even the NFL has had some games postponed this week. They're even facing a situation where they don't have another bye week to maybe move a Broncos or Patriots game, and may even, the NFL may even be forced to cancel some games. So it's a little wild out there with college football and the pandemic, and football in general in the pandemic right now. So something, I don't know. I mean, it's something to sort of keep an eye on. We don't always know up until game time what the numbers are going to be. If teams are still able to play, how many players are going to be out. That's something that some schools are still not, releasing, up until the moment of play. So, mileage may vary on some things as we come into some of these games. We've certainly had a lot of games thus far where teams have had significant numbers of players out, up to, I think Arkansas State had something like 11 players out when they played Kansas State. It's not unusual at this point in the pandemic. We're certainly used to going into game time and finding out that players are not going to be able to play. But, this week in particular, I might expect there to be a few more, just given the overall numbers we've seen around college football, around the country. I might keep an eye on that. But it also, this is our first, you could argue, first really big game of the season. I mean, there have been some games where we've been excited to see them, A&M Florida, but this is the first real game of teams that really, I think everyone had picked as potential playoff contenders, Alabama and Georgia. They've certainly thus far have mostly lived up to the billing. Georgia, finding Stetson Bennett. It is interesting that Georgia seems to have figured out the offense without Jamie Newman or JT Daniels running things. But these two teams have, and they've also lived up mostly to what we expected them to be. Alabama with its incredibly potent offense. The defense not maybe rounding into the form quite what we expected yet, but Georgia, the defense has been everything that we projected. We projected them at the number 1 defense in college football coming into this season. They've certainly lived up to that thus far, and you can't complain at any point that they haven't really done, I think, what we expected there. There are a few. We of course, like, the internet dropped. So if you are watching on Periscope, I apologize. It'll pick back up in a second. At some point, I'm going to get a new internet provider, probably when I move. That'll help. So let's get into the games though, because there are some really good games, and I think our group of 5 matchup of the week this week is actually not it's not buried down below. It's front and center. And we've already had some good group of 5 matchups this week, including last night. BYU ended up pulling away from Houston. Houston with some really poor drive efficiency towards the end there. Still put up a lot of yards, but weren't able to convert those into points. But yeah, the UCF Memphis game really is a highlight game, I think, and would be, you know, regardless of the fact that it's group of 5 teams playing. Really excited to see that game. So right off the bat, we have number 4 Georgia at number 3 Alabama. Clemson sitting at number 1. Ohio State's at number 2. Ohio State, of course, still hasn't played anyone yet. Yeah, this game, this is the signature matchup here that we're really excited to see. You know, the number 2 offense in beta rank against the number 1 defense. You can see that they've mostly lived up the individual beta rank metrics, the, you know, drive efficiency, explosive drives. Those aren't weighted by preseason yet, or at all, really. So like the overall number, that 1-2 offense defense, or where we bring in the preseason Bayesian weighting. The other numbers, however, are not, and you can kind of see where they're really continuing to excel. They're going to be a little fluky because there's smaller data in them, but you know, Alabama, really good drive efficiency. They're able to put together long drives, turn them into points. Very explosive, number 3. Where they can potentially work on things is not putting up significant yards per play there outside of their explosive drives and really negative drives. I mean, you know, 3 and outs, turnovers. I mean, Alabama's got some stuff to work on still. But a very potent offense, incredibly effective through the air. Mac Jones is really not, you know, missed too much of a beat at all from where Tua was. So Alabama's in a really good place in a lot of ways coming into this game. You know, and Sarkisian, if Saban can't go, will be the head coach as well as the offensive coordinator there. He's done a terrific job with this Alabama offense. On the other side, we have Dan Lanning, who's done an incredible job taking over the Georgia defensive coordinator. They really contain big plays. They've been terrific at that. They force negative drives. You know, they force 3 and outs and turnovers. Great play efficiency number. I really think that they're going to be able to find ways to slow Alabama down on the big plays. They are going to have to, you know, prevent Alabama from putting up long drives. That could potentially be trouble, but this will be, you know, this number 1 pass defense against the number 1 effective, you know, offense and effective pass will be fun to watch. It's the era of big offense. It has been the last couple of years where offense really ruled over defense. I mean, LSU was the number 1 offense last season. Clemson was the number 1 defense. We all know how that turned out. So we'll see if that continues this year, you know, in this game in particular. On the other side of the ball, it's a little less sexy of a matchup. You know, we have Todd Monken and the Georgia offense kind of figuring out. Stetson Bennett's been pretty good. They do like to run the ball, of course, more, you know, and they're pretty, you know, and when they have their zone running scheme working, they can really get it rolling. They're more efficient at converting long drives into points than they are putting up explosive drives. Certainly have something to work on there. They can't have a negative drives number that consistently sits in that 41 range and expect to really be competitive in this game. On the other side of the ball, Alabama's coming off a really disappointing performance, you know, against Ole Miss. That defense sits at number 6. A lot of that's the preseason projection still, though, because when you look down that, you know, into those other numbers, those more, you know, granular numbers that are fully preseason data, it's not really, they're not really carrying enough of that, you know, in the actual data, in the actual in-season data. You know, some of those numbers would not support a number 6 ranking on their own. And, you know, it is concerning, I think, given where, you know, how they performed, you know, and then not just how they performed against Ole Miss, but, you know, how Ole Miss, you know, like relatively also performed against Kentucky's defense. Right. And, you know, I think Lane Kiffin's a smart offensive, you know, and Jeff Levy are smart offensive, you know, schemers. They were able to hit, you know, spread them out and then find space actually in the middle of the field against that Alabama defense. They've got some work to do for Pete Golding here. He really needs to justify his job, you know, and that he's not another, you know, Tosh Lapoy, you know, that they may have to make a move on from. So this matchup but this could be the matchup that really decides the game. If Alabama can tackle well and contain Georgia's running game, put it on Stetson Bennett, I think they have an advantage in the game. Alabama's got a 65% win probability in the model at home. Certainly keep an eye on that in this game. But as I said, like keep an eye on whether Alabama can stop the Georgia running game. And then the matchup to watch in a lot of ways will be how Georgia is able to try to contain those Alabama wide receivers and Mac Jones. Moving on, I went over the 3. I mean, it's the game. I mean, I can go over the 3 minutes. It's my show. This is a really exciting game too. I know a little bit of a luster is off of this game because each of these teams comes in with a loss, but UCF has still been really good. Their offense comes in at number 9 in beta rank. As you can see here, the underlying numbers really support that. It's not carrying just projection. They've been terrific on drive efficiency. They've been incredible on explosive drives, putting up big plays. Their play efficiency has been pretty good. Number 14 in negative drives as well. Not a lot of 3 and outs, not a lot of turnovers. They've been a lot better throwing the ball, number 6, than they've been running the ball at number 42. They really did strong. I mean, Tulsa's got some terrific corners. They've had a pretty good defense the last couple of years. A lot of people focus on the Tulsa offense. The head coach has a little bit more of an offensive background. But the defense has been better for them and was good again this year and was able to contain UCF enough to get it done. Memphis also comes off of a loss. They lost to SMU. This defense has been okay. They really are excelling at containing explosive drives. But all their other numbers they're really struggling at. This Ryan Silverfield Memphis team. It'll be the defense is less of a focus, I think, because people really want to see if that Mike Norvell offense can keep it going without Mike Norvell there. But the defense here under Mike McIntyre needs to continue to make some strides, I think, and this game is really going to test them. I think UCF is smarting coming off of that loss to Tulsa, and I expect them to have a better performance than they did against the Golden Hurricane. Here, Josh Heupel is their play caller and head coach. The other side of the ball, Memphis's offense, if you look down those numbers again, like you can see the preseason projections still carrying this a little bit, with their number 15 ranking here. Kevin Johns is their OC right now. But this is something to really keep an eye on here. This Memphis offense really has been the engine of their success. If they're not able to live up to where they're, the weighted, ranking is right now with some preseason as well as some in-season, with that offense number at 15, their numbers right now, that drive efficiency at 28 is really their best number, converting long drives into points. Explosive drives, play efficiency, negative drives. I mean, they're struggling a little bit more there. They're still pretty balanced, which is somewhat surprising given John's background, in the air raid. But the UCF on defense, Randy Shannon's, done a really good job. They really are lighting it up in one metric in particular, in drive efficiency, containing long drives, not letting teams put up points. Some of their other numbers they're kind of struggling on a little bit more. They really, watch out for Memphis being able to put up big plays against this offense with that explosive drives number there. The effective rush and effective pass, again, not a big split. And something under the radar that may help, may end up helping decide this game actually is the, special teams. Memphis has a terrific special teams coach in Pete Lembo. Keep an eye on special teams and where the starting field positions are in this game. If Memphis ends up with a little bit of an advantage there, that could certainly help. This game is tight in the projection model. UCF is just a nose ahead with a 52% win probability on the road. I don't know that this is like a wildly exciting game to see. I mean, but this should be pretty fun. So, we get A&M coming off a big, maybe the big win so far of Jimbo Fisher's, tenure. A&M came into the season with really high projections. They haven't necessarily lived up to them yet, thus far. And Mississippi State has certainly been, highs and lows all over the map. But, which is Mike Leach. I mean, in a nutshell, highs and lows all over the map. So the offense for Texas A&M, they come in at number 16. They've been pretty good. I mean, they haven't been great, but some of their numbers really do kind of support where they're at for the most part. So that's a plus, I think, if you're an A&M fan. Where they struggle is drive efficiency. I mean, they really need to turn more long drives into points. Their explosive numbers is good at 20. Pretty good at play efficiency. That 15 negative drives is also solid. They're not, putting up a bunch of 3 and outs, not turning the ball over, not generating a lot of negative plays. Far better passing than they are running the football with Kellen Mond. Fisher's a good play caller. I really, but this matchup could be a lot of fun because under the radar, and I mean, of course it's going to be under the radar, and it will always be under the radar with Mike Leach, but keep an eye on this Mississippi State defense. They did a really good job against Kentucky last week. Even though the final score looked like there was a really big, difference between the teams, Kentucky was able to really, work off of a lot of Mississippi State offensive turnovers to help put up points. It was a really, they had a really good game containing that Kentucky offense, which isn't bad. With Zach, and they have Zach Garnett. He's the new play caller there. Their numbers have been really solid. Where they struggle is drive efficiency. So, Texas A&M is going to have to grind it out, and they haven't been doing that a lot so far this season. Keep an eye on it. But anyway, Zach Garnett's had a pretty good time so far implementing that Rocky Long 3-3-5 in Starkville. On the other side of the ball, here of course it's Mike Leach versus Mike Elko. The A&M offense has, or the Mississippi State offense has really fallen off from that game against LSU. It does seem that, that folks have figured out, dropping 8, rushing 3. And you have to, this isn't a recipe for everyone, right? Like, I mean, you have to have 3 that can actually eventually get to the quarterback, but, dropping 8, mixing up your coverages, but playing a lot of zone that, makes mesh difficult. It takes away some of that Mike Leach's sort of favorite go-to plays. Can really slow down this offense. Leach is going to have to figure something out here, or else he's going to have a very short tenure in Starkville, even maybe shorter than Joe Moorhead. This offense at number 46 really isn't getting it done. They're not explosive. Too many 3 and outs. They have real problems. The defense for A&M has been pretty good, 21 overall. But their numbers really don't support this, as you can tell, right? Like this is mostly projection that's keeping them up, a little bit higher here. They're going to have to turn it around. This could be a challenge for them, here against, this Leach coached offense. Sure, the blueprint may be out there, but can you execute that blueprint? I mean, not everybody has the kind of talent and development that, just allow you to go out and run that, like that drop 8 and run 3, or, rush 3. Not everybody's got that kind of talent. I mean, A&M absolutely should. But if you look down those numbers, it certainly doesn't look like they're playing like it up to this point. So moving on, because I've gone over on every single one so far. Such is life. I had a week off. All right. We had to sub this game in after another game was postponed due to COVID. So we get Gus Malzahn, Will Muschamp. This game, so the offense for South Carolina for Auburn, with and this is Chad Morris now, has been not great. They weren't great last season. They struggle with their drive efficiency. They're just not converting long drives into points. Their explosive drives, however, is really good. They put up a lot of big plays. They're decent on their play efficiency. Their negative drives, again, like not a lot of 3 and outs. So they are able to get first downs. They're just not really turning long drives into points, which is generally play calling and execution. So it's something they certainly should look in the mirror on. Pretty decent run pass split. Auburn, I think Auburn's going to continue to do well. Oh, there goes the internet again. Just wow. I think Auburn's going to be at their best when they are a little more run heavy. But we'll see. This South Carolina defense, I actually really like. I think they have a really good coordinator, who should eventually get some looks at some, Travaris Robinson, who should get some looks at some head coaching jobs at some point, or some bigger defensive coordinator jobs. But they've been pretty good. Their drive efficiency numbers really where they, one of the numbers they hang their hat on, not letting teams turn long drives into points. Negative drives is another place they excel. They do find ways to get off the field and not give up first downs. Another way, they have not a big run pass split. This should be fun to watch. This matchup here. I think this with Bo Nix, going up against the South Carolina defense should be a pretty fun matchup. On the other side of the ball, this should be a less fun matchup. The South Carolina offense really continues to struggle. With Will Muschamp there, trying to figure out, the offense and get them going. They're, on this side of the ball, they have Mike Bobo in, who had been and did a pretty decent job with Colorado State, and their offense, getting them to a better place after all that time at Georgia. But really, their numbers are pretty good in some. I mean, some they are getting held down a little bit by their preseason weight here. You can tell, but their drive efficiency has been a lot better at number 22. They could be a little bit more explosive at number 44. But you can see that as more in-season data comes in, the South Carolina offense is actually going to pick it up a little bit. I don't know that they're going to get to the range that maybe they need to be in the SEC, but you can certainly feel a little bit better about maybe the direction the program's headed if Muschamp can keep his job through the pandemic. Teams are going to be a little less, programs are going to be a little less flush with cash. The defense, Auburn's numbers, they're struggling, versus where they were last year. And you can tell that they're being held up a little bit by their preseason projection. That drive efficiency number at 37, the rest of those numbers are just not supporting this number 14 overall ranking. They are carrying in some of their preseason projection there. I think that they're good. And I really like what Kevin Steele has done defensively with them. I think that they're going to have to continue to get better though. This game may end up being a little bit of a challenge for them. A sneaky one. Auburn's got a 72% win probability in this coming in. I keep an eye on that because, this, as we could see here with these units here, the Bayesian weighting, that we have to do because we don't quite know yet. It could end up being wrong, as we adjust. There's a lot of opponent adjustment that gets done early on in beta rank up until we get to about 6 games, worth of data in. So keep an eye on this side of the ball. It'll tell us a lot about where these units actually are versus where they're currently sitting due to the projections. I'm actually excited. The Big Ten will be back next week. We'll have a little bit less of like all SEC flavor on some of these games. Some of these in this preview once we have the Big Ten and the Pac-12 playing. But this game should be a lot of fun. We've got Kentucky with Mark Stoops, Tennessee with Jeremy Pruitt. This Kentucky offense, they've been decent. We expected them to be a little bit better given how many offensive linemen they were bringing, given the fact that they had a real quarterback coming back off of injury. They weren't going to be running so much Wildcat. You can tell their rushing numbers have still been really good. They haven't really been able to open up the passing game. They had a really tough week last week against Mississippi State. But, they get a Tennessee defense, and Eddie Grant, I think he does a good job with this Kentucky offense, but they really need to have a real bounce back week this week. Derek Ainsley is the defensive coordinator of Tennessee. I think he does a really good job. Their drive efficiency number in particular is really solid. They don't let teams put up long drives, turn them into points. However, you can see like they have given up some big plays. They don't force enough 3 and outs and negative offensive plays. So I am, this matchup should be fun to see because Kentucky, when they have it going, is more of a drive efficiency type team behind that strong offensive line and rushing, offense. This could be a tough matchup. This could be, a real fun matchup to watch, I think, between two teams that have gotten a lot closer than I think Tennessee fans want them to be. The other side of the ball, Kentucky's defense has been really good. There's no other way to put it. They've been really good thus far, under Brad White. We have them at number 7 overall. The number that really, really hurts them right now is actually their drive efficiency. They have been susceptible to giving up some long drives for points, but their explosive drives, containing big plays, forcing 3 and outs, not giving up a lot of yards per play. Those are all top 10. And the defense has been fairly balanced. I think this Kentucky defense, should be able to, stump Tennessee enough. I mean, this Tennessee offense is certainly projecting a bit better than the Kentucky offense right now. Jim Chaney is the offensive coordinator here that they got from Georgia to come up to Knoxville. The offense for them, they're decent at drive. They're pretty good actually at drive efficiency, number 16 overall, converting long drives into points. That's a good reflection on execution and play calling. Their explosive drives, they could do a little work. That's middle of the Power 5 there and putting up big plays. Their play efficiency really falls back, right? And that number where you're not getting outside of your explosives, you're not getting enough yards per play. And then negative drives, again, like they do pretty well there. A little bit more, leaning towards the pass than they are the run. This game's a true toss up in the model. It's a 50-50. With Kentucky on the road here. So this should be a lot of fun to watch. It's actually on the SEC network. So at noon. So you might have to flip over to find it, but This should be an interesting one. I really want to see if the Kentucky offense can't bounce back and really continues to stay in the slump that they found themselves against Mississippi State. They could be in a lot of trouble in this game, because I do expect, as good as the Kentucky defense is, like, you're still likely going to be able to put up 21 points or so against them. If the Kentucky offense can't match that, this could be a tough day for them. I know, ACC games, but there weren't. Despite the fact there's a really big headline game this week, there's not an amazing undercard right now. So this game, I mean, 46 at 64, it at least projects to be reasonably close-ish, within a right around a touchdown. Bronco Mendenhall is your coach for the Cavaliers. Dave Clawson for Wake Forest. This Robert and I Virginia offense has been decent. Virginia had a lot to replace coming into the season, but their drive efficiency number thus far has been really good. They've been able to put together long drives, turn them into points, but they just haven't been as particularly explosive. And they, struggle with their negative drives, too many 3 and outs. They need to put together more first downs, have a better plan when they come onto the field with the ball. But far better throwing the ball than they have been running the ball, which is a little interesting, because if you actually dive into Virginia's QB numbers, they've been decent. They really need to, work on their completion percentage, as an offense, and put their quarterbacks in a better position and see some better execution from their young quarterbacks. On the defensive side of the ball for Wake, I think there's some of the preseason projection, like they're actually playing a little bit better thus far. Let's see if that holds up as more data comes in, as we have them there. Lyle Hemphill is the Hemphill. I can't read my own handwriting. Apologies. Doctor's hand. I'm not a doctor, but I have that kind of hand. I mean, a pharmacist, whatever. Anybody that writes a lot, and I don't write a lot anymore, I have that kind of bad handwriting. But the defense has been playing a little bit better than that. Their play efficiency and negative drives in particular stand out, not giving up a ton of yards per play, controlling per opponent, finding ways to get off the field, force the offense to do bad things there with that negative drives number. Not a big run pass split. This matchup should be, interesting to see with these units. I want to see in this game whether, Wake can continue to punch above their weight a little bit with what we projected them coming into the season, because it is tough to put together a really good defense at Wake. As well as I'm interested to see if this, Virginia offense can really evolve. I really like Anaya's play caller. I think he's a terrific offensive line coach when he's doing that for a living too. On the other side of the football, this Wake offense, they do one thing really well. Warren Ruggiero, is the OC here. And that is that they've done actually a pretty good job replacing Jamie Newman. Their quarterbacks have been pretty good thus far. But their drive efficiency, they're able to put together long drives and turn them into points. That is offset, of course, by not a lot of big plays. Their play efficiency really isn't, hitting there either, but their negative drives number is good. Like they are finding ways to get first downs, get things done. They're going to get a Virginia defense that is playing better than their numbers too. So the Virginia defense projected in, and they're the preseason weight at number 50. Their drive efficiency number and, the explosive drives number is at number 32. Their play efficiency number, we'll sort of see on that. The negative drives at 28. I'm interested to see where this sort of shakes out for Virginia here. They've again, like they replace a lot. And Nick Howell I think has done a good job with this Virginia defense, but I don't know that Wake's going to come off as like a super test for them, but Virginia really also needs to win this game. They've got a 61% win probability on the road. I think Mendenhall doesn't want to have too much of a dip off from where they were last year, and they'll feel pretty good about it. So that's what we got for this week. The games have been fun so far, of course, like, Coastal Carolina, and it goes in and knocks off Louisiana. It's been, it's starting to feel a little more, and of course, once we get the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the Mountain West, back in particular, and I'll try to get up this week, one of the nights early in the week, I'll try to get a full Big Ten rundown of, where everybody projects right now, with their projection versus where, versus maybe where they started. But then also, what are some questions that these teams need to answer coming into the season? Because every one of these teams has, things that, if they're going to beat their projection or match their projection where they're at, that they're going to need to have happen. What's that going to look like? So I'll try to run that down and have that up maybe Sunday or Monday night, depending on the, but I'm excited to get those teams playing. I think in particular, I'm excited to see Wisconsin and Ohio State get out there and play. The Buckeyes in particular have a lot to live up to coming into this season. As we get more of that in, we will start to flush out, of course. But it has been, man, it's been a lot to see. I mean, the projection model right now, there are teams with totally different, number of games playing each other. Houston played their second game of the year against BYU, last night. What was it for BYU? What game were they on? Was it 5? Was that their 5th game? Yeah, it was. So, I mean, you have total, in the projection model, you have, teams that have a lot of preseason weight still playing against teams that have a lot more in-season weight. So it's a little bit, it's unusual to find ourselves in that kind of situation. Usually if teams are, the most you'll find, space-wise between teams is 2. And what you'll have then is a team that'll, have an FCS game, in there, and then, maybe also a bye week that they've already had against a team, and there are a lot of teams in Power 5 and Group of 5 still play an FCS team, but you might have them matched up against a Power 5 team that has not played an FCS team and just has a straight FBS schedule. Then you'll have the model, really looking at totally different numbers. That doesn't happen a lot though. So this kind of spacing where you find that you have, 3 games, difference between the amount of data in the model, that's a lot. So it's been interesting. The fact that BYU was able to, hit more where the projection model had, where BetaRank had the game, versus where Vegas had the game. I actually was a little surprised by. I thought Houston would be a little better, than they ended up being, but such is life. But yeah, this week does have the headline, anchor game there with Georgia and Bama. Of course, tune in, watch that. That'll be the exciting game of the week to really see. But, some of these other games will end up being really good too. We didn't cover any Big 12 games this week. None of them it was a little bit of a lopsided week, if you will, of the Big 12. So nothing really jumps out as being, oh man, we got to tune in for that. Yeah. But the Big 12, of course, will also continue to have games that will be a little less lopsided and will be more important. I think as we try to figure out who's going to be the Big 12 contender, this season, we'll have a few more games in the upcoming, weeks that are a little closer and more important towards the overall conference race. So I'm excited for this week. Tune in as we try to get more out on Sharp College Football. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. If you're watching live, if you're catching us on YouTube, also thank you for tuning in and checking us out there. Again, thank you for your time. Watch some college football. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you again soon. Oh, I forgot to I take a week off. I run through the whole blah, blah, blah. Like a total goofus. You can find all the stats you just saw and a lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. I'm Rob Bowron at BetaRank FB. I also tweet out from out Sharp College Football. We have a Pac-12 podcast we're going through. If you really like the Pac-12 or are interested, we're doing Pac-12 previews there right now. About 3 teams an episode with one of our friends, Hippolyte, who breaks teams down from a tape perspective. So we have advanced stats and tape. And you can find all the back episodes of that podcast at sharpcollegefootball.com/12pack radio. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm actually going to sign off this time. See you next week.